Hello, everyone. Welcome to DrTovesCorner. Welcome to another session of Scatteryan. To Scatteryan is to talk about anything with confidence and to articulate all of those thoughts that comes to your mind about that topic. I'm your guy, Toves. And today I've got my camaraderies with me. But before I introduce them, I want to say thank you to everyone that is streaming our podcast on all platforms, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Boomplay, Amazon. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed. Thank you to those that have followed. If you're yet to subscribe or follow, please do so. We appreciate those that have liked the video on YouTube so far. Continue to do so. And one more thing, we would like to hear from you as well on what you think about the topics that we're discussing, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Thank you very much. Right. So to join me to Scatteryan on today's topic are my guys. Let's start with Mr. Traveler himself, Maurice. How are you doing, Maurice?
Good. It's good to be here, and good to be joined by the professor, the philosopher. So it will be a very, very good and interesting session. So looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the time that you spend, the little time that you have to share with us. I really appreciate it before you go on your next journey.
You came back and was about to leave again.
Exactly. Joining us for the conversation today is my guy, Ade. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Dr. Toves. I'm very well. I'm glad to be in this highly estimable and esteemed company. I'm here to learn. Yes,
Wow.
let's leave it there.
Okay. I don't know who is going to be doing the learning, us or you, but anyways, we'll see. And also, welcome back to the corner, my brother from another mother. Maurice already described him, the philosopher, Prince. How are you doing, Prince?
Please, I'm not the one with sagely beard on the chat today. So maybe that title is for someone else. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Previous conversations have been amazing, and I can already, feel that today will be a very insightful and interesting one. So happy to be here, happy to share.
All right. Hopefully it's a good one. And so today we are going to be scatteryanning about the pursuit of happiness. I was going to start singing that Kid Cudi's anthem, but I will hold myself back to not sing. But I'll be talking about how easy or how challenging it might be to actually achieve the happiness. But in the conversation today, I'm going to limit the scope of happiness because I don't want us to look at happiness from the point of view of you started from the bottom and you became Jeff Bezos. We're looking at it from just a minor point of view of where they can do whatever they like, in the sense that if they want to travel, like my guy Maurice does, then they can travel, no stress. If they want to buy any car of their choice, they have the resources to do so. If they want to take their family on vacation or to pay tuition fees, they can do it easily. All right. So that's the happiness I'm trying to talk about, the state of being comfortable, the state of not lacking, for lack of a better term. Right. That's the happiness we're going to be discussing today. So whose responsibility is it to achieve happiness? Is it the individual that has those dreams and visions? Is it the educational system? Is it the sociocultural setting? Like, whose responsibility is it to make it easy for people to achieve the happiness? And the reason why I ask that question is, if you take any country in the world, even the Scandinavian countries that are meant to be the happiest places in the world, there's still people that are struggling to achieve that basic level of happiness that I talked about. Yes, there are jobs. Yes, there's no level of employment. Yes, there's opportunities to get loan from the bank, but still, for some reason, there are more people that are not so happy than there are that are happy. So whose responsibility is it to make it possible for people to pursue their happiness?
I have a very short answer to it, but to open it. So I'll say, for me, happiness is an inside job and is the responsibility of the individual. Like, unless we are discussing it differently, but I don't know, like, it's happiness for a reason, your happiness. So you have to take that responsibility of making yourself happy. You see, the question you're asking, you ask whether it's actually society, that people are, etc. Some people even say, is it God's responsibility, like for the believers, that is it God's responsibility to make you happy? But for me, I think when you talk about happiness, every time, always, I think it's an inside job. Whether or not you are happy is your ultimate responsibility. First, and foremost. And that's where I tend to look at it from. I don't even look at all the other social institutions and what role they can play. They do have a role, but ultimately happiness is an inside job, and it's the responsibility of the individual to see to it that they are happy. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I wonder what the rest think.
Okay. Thank you. Boris, what do you think?
Definitely agree. I definitely agree. You are definitely responsible for your own happiness. So if you try to depend, well, we've seen that several times. Some people tend to link their happiness with that of someone else, and to me, it doesn't truly define what happiness is, because happiness has to come from within yourself. So yes, just like what Prince have said, society, family, and all other external aspects contributes to overall happiness, but the sole responsibility lies with the individual. So I would definitely say that happiness has to come from within.
Right. And Ade, I saw you nodding. I'm guessing you also agree that it's meant to be the individual.
Of course, not. You want Sakba to finish. They need to tell you before you know you be. Don't be happy now. But no, yes, of course, that the demand for the happiness has to come from within. Definitely from the individual. I don't think even children, newly born, they are seeking their own happiness. They want to be fulfilled. But then the supply of the happiness, where you actually get the fulfillment of feeling all those things you mentioned, that's a different question. But yes.
All right. That's a perfect segue to the next question I have then, right? If it's the individual's responsibility to be happy, and as Prince mentioned, it's them that defines what happiness is to them. So why are there more people that are unhappy than those that are happy?
Me, I don't know whether I'm jumping at these two. I wonder where that generalized assertion is coming from. Like, because I mean, I don't know. Like, if for instance you were referencing a particular statistic, or as perhaps your own
It's just there's no statistic. It's just general, just based on
the
observation, general
Wow.
observation around the world, right? You talk about the mental health and anxiety and all of those things, right? It's higher now in this modern era than previous. Okay. If people are happy, there'll be less of those anxiety, less of those depression, less of those, let's say, lack of mental well-being. So if it's meant to be individual, if they're the ones that determine their own happiness. But we are scatteryanning, we don't have the facts, right? We just give him perspective. It doesn't have to be your own opinion or someone, it can be someone else's opinion. And those that are listening as well, please feel free to chip in.
Just following on from what I said earlier. So that demand to be happy comes from internal. If you're a human being, you want what's best for yourself. If someone wants to whack you with something, you generally duck. So we're all looking for something good. Now, the supply side though of that happiness, I think that's where the kicker is. So what do we need to be happy? Money. How do we get money? You need to go to work, or you need to set up your own business. These things are generally not easy to come by. What do you need to be happy? Someone to rub your head at night. It means you need to go out and put yourself in the dating game where you can face rejection, etc. So the things that are required to make us happy are not always freely available. So that's where the situation is. They're a bit tough to come by. And then your environment where you are trying to look for those things, I think also plays a role. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Who wants to pick up from where you left it?
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned three main key aspects. Then you talked about the financial aspect, which is very, very important. Then you talked about relationships with people, and then you talked about, the environment. And that's the part I wanted to, touch on as well. The environment, the societal support system. And this is where we have this sort of support system that are available to help people achieve whatever dreams and aspirations that they want, right? So things like good healthcare, things like, access to finances when you need them, things like good level of education. And so all these are, like you rightly put, sources that the individual can, tap into to help them. Remember, these are all a means to achieve whatever the end goal is, which is happiness. So I would say the environmental aspect of the societal support systems are very, very important in terms of individuals trying to get to that pursuit of their goals as well. Okay.
Right. Before we go on, because you mentioned societies, I think on this panel right now, you're the most traveled person, and you've probably been to a lot of Scandinavian countries, right? Not to
Yeah.
do research, just for holiday. Just in general, your observation, right? Do you think they are happy over there compared to the other countries that you've been?
Yes. So, okay. Last year I went to Finland, and I think Finland is tagged as the happiest country in the world. And before I left, I tried to ask myself, what is it that, makes these people the happiest? And one thing I kind of thought or felt was that it was also their approach to life, right? So they have this, I've forgotten the Finnish word for it, but I think it has to do with resilience. Whenever I remember the word, I would find it had to do with resilience. So the ability to, even when faced with difficulties, they are resilient, and also contentment feeds right into it. But when we look at what makes these people happy, right? So when you look at the educational system in the country, it's one of the best in the world. When you look at the social programs available, things like, support for the unemployed, it's also top there. Even the prison system it's more like a holiday. So why would someone not be happy in such environment? And then in other parts of the world, also, it's slightly different. Some, it could be, the pursuit of money, if you're successful. But then one thing I've come to realize, my travel is that for every location, every country is slightly different. Just for example, I came back from Portugal, and I remember the very first interaction I had with the hotel receptionist. He was very, very welcoming. And then there was lots of insight. And then he mentioned something. He said that the country is a very quiet, calm, and happy country. He used the word happy. And then he also said that, but you don't see that happiness expressed facially, right? You say, this is according to him. And he said that you would see people just walking down the street. Seems like they are a bit absent-minded, but that doesn't mean that they're not happy. That's just how they are. Whereas in the UK here, when you walk past someone in the street, there's this expectation that you would, nod and smile, and that way you're demonstrating that you're happy. So my thought or my take on this is it that there is an expectation from society as to how we portray happiness? So that's just my quick question.
All right. Fair enough. I don't know if someone wants to answer that quick question. Prince. Not to put you on the spot, but there you go.
Are you on mute?
Thanks for pointing it out. Definitely not attempting the question yet, but I was so engrossed in my own thinking about the answer. When you ask, there are some questions that when asked, I try to not intellectualize the question. I try to look at it from my own perspective as well, like personally. It's like you asking the question, why has unhappiness around the world or like around us seem to have grown? And like you mentioned, we are scattergarden, so we are not speaking from, let's say, a factual research perspective. But in fact, there's actually some research to suggest that unhappiness around the globe has been, increasing. And this recently, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's been increasing and it's stalled, right? If we are going to speak about it in general terms, I want to look at it from myself personally before I look at it generally. Over the years, have I been progressively unhappy? I think over the time, my happiness has, I would say, relatively increased, right? Like I'm in a position now that, looking back, I wanted to be at. So relatively, I would say I'm happier. But then if we want to speak about it globally and from a more general perspective, we are inclined to think that unhappiness has grown. And that's a bit of a conundrum for me. Why is it that, from my perspective, I think I've progressively gotten happier? And everyone I speak to says they've gotten happier. right? So like from the micro perspective, everyone is getting happier, but from the macro perspective, everyone is getting unhappier. That is something that is quite baffling. I don't know whether it means people are not being honest on the micro level or not, but I believe that maybe we can all share our thoughts on it. But the question as to whether people have become unhappy in general, I personally think there is some credence to that, even independent of the research. And I think it's because, okay, I will put it down to globalization, right? It's weird, but I think the fact that the world has increasingly gotten interconnected and coupled with advances in information technologies, like there is now a global village, we have insight into whatever is going around the world. And so it's made comparison very, very, very possible and very, very precise as well. Like it's so easy for you to take your life in Nigeria or Ghana or South Africa and make a direct comparison with another person's life in, let's say, Europe somewhere. So the world becoming a global village, globalization, advances in ICT, I think that has progressively contributed to the unhappiness level. It's so easy for people. I don't want to say social media, but you can't just talk about it without bringing in social media. Aside
Yeah.
social media, there's all these, like we have access to so much that we're able to look at and make direct comparisons between ourselves and others. And I think these two things have contributed to the unhappiness. And also the last point I throw in there, I believe the world has gotten progressively complex. You know,
In what way?
in every sense, like no, not progressively complex, uncertain. Like there's more uncertainty in almost every area of life. Things have gotten more complex and complicated generally. That like systems have become more advanced and so complex. Life
Mm-hmm.
has so many dimensions to it now. Like almost every area of our lives is becoming progressively like complex, and so it's made navigating life a bit tough. Like if we have to go with the scientist narrative, we were once hunter gatherers. Right?
Yeah.
Wake up, gather, hunt, eat, go back into your cave. But
Mm.
now I don't have to wake up, gather, hunt, eat. I have to think about my momsy. I have to think about, my children, my spiritual and biological children. Like there's so many. I have to think about my own happiness, my career
Yeah.
ambitions. Like it's just
Mhm.
so many dimensions to one's life now. And then that's the complexity I speak of. So it's the complexity, the globalization, advancements in technology is made. It's like we are in the big bubble where we see whatever is going on in everywhere aside from what's going on with us, and we are easily able to compare, which is, I think, contributing to the unhappiness.
Unhappiness. All
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
just
barring
just to
all
touch,
the.
just to
Uh,
touch on some of the points you've mentioned, definitely because you talked about, which is quite interesting for me because there's a part where you talked about not just your own happiness, the happiness of others. So
Hmm.
I don't know, what you're kind of alluding to is that when people are happier around you, that also makes you happy. Because think about, family members, like you said, your children, your spiritual children, even people that you're not really related to, but because for some way or the other, they're relying on you for some sort of spiritual, emotional, mental support.
mm,
And there's this, I don't know if it's an obligation or this determination to support them. That also, I believe, brings also a sense of happiness or satisfaction for me, just knowing that you're contributing to the betterment of someone else's life. So I think that is also another aspect that is often quite overlooked. The fact that, yes, we have to think about ourselves, but just thinking about others, helping them also can contribute significantly to, happiness in general. That's just my takeout from one of the things,
Fair
points
enough.
you've mentioned.
Okay,
Right.
I'm
So,
jumping in now.
all right, jump in. I was
Just
going to ask.
a quick one. Please, this is all sounding like we're living in some kind of utopia or Peter Pan fairy tale land where everything goes well. I'm able to help the people that need. Please, all these migrants that are dying off the coast of Senegal and Libya, other people's happiness is not making them happy. Fine, they are gingered to want to try and help their own family. But the reality is the reality. To hit them in the face, for some of them, it costs their lives. Yeah, that's what was sticking out to me in all this. That was sounding like, wow, this is a nice place to be. But In a way, no. It's only nice if it's nice for you. If it's not nice for you, then I think it could be hellish. And it would be
Right.
happy.
No problem.
Um,
Right. I don't want us to dwell too much on the support system yet because I will move the conversation there. I just had a question based on what Prince was saying.
Please, can I
Uh,
clarify something before you bring in that question?
okay,
So
go
when
for
I
it.
spoke about the happiness of others as opposed to my happiness, I wasn't even speaking about it in terms of whether others' happiness make me unhappy, and not to sound selfish, but I was just trying to draw the line between my happiness and that of others. And like when I speak about myself, I think I've progressively gotten happy. But and when I talk to others, they also say the same. Right. But each person individually says, oh, over time I've become happier. But then when we look at it from a more like macro perspective, collective, like individually, everyone is getting happier, but collectively, everyone is getting unhappier. To me, that's a bit of a paradox. It's like, is it that we are not being honest when we speak to each other? So for instance, if you put 10 people together, you ask all of them, chances are the index will be that, oh, yeah, they've progressively gotten unhappier. But then if you speak to each person, they will all say, oh, I've gotten happier. So I don't know whether people are not being honest, right? Or is there's something in the aggregate that's being missing. That to me was a bit of a paradox. That's all I was saying. I wasn't talking about people being happy, making me happy. No, I was just speaking about my happiness and how my dependence also so influenced the possibility of that happening. But yeah, I wanted to clarify that.
Right. Right. I don't want to sound like Prince said he doesn't want to go all intellectual about things, but I can have a theoretical answer to that question. Right. And theoretically,
Please do.
yeah, those that have done some economics would have heard of Pareto's optimality, which basically says that there is no way without making a conscious effort to make an individual better off without making another individual worse off. Right. So I'll give the simple examples that people give us as well for explaining this. If you're listening to music in your room through your speaker,
Mhm.
right, you are enjoying the music, but those that are outside are not enjoying it. People that are smoking cigarettes, they enjoy the cigarette they're smoking, but the other people are not enjoying the secondhand smoke. Right. So one person getting a job, making all this money, there is someone else that's not getting that's lost out on that job and making money. So there's no way to make one person better off without a conscious effort, without making the other person worse off. So when you said about like if you're speaking to people individually, they're better off, but on the macro scale, they are not better off, is because if you look at the statistics, the employment rate is still the employment rate, the unemployment rate is still the unemployment rate, the poverty rate is still the poverty rate. So while some individuals are benefiting from those indexes, there's still a large portion of others that are at the suffering end of those indexes. So that's one way to explain it theoretically and intellectually, but individually, I don't know the answer.
So it
yeah,
means
but
that let's see that. Boy, just a quick one. It means because you
yeah,
said that in response to what I said. Now this is an eureka moment for me, right? Pareto's optimality. Is that what it's called? So what you're
Yes, yes.
saying is there's no way to make one individual happy. The only way to make one individual happy is at the expense of another.
Better off. Yes, there's no way to make one individual better off without making another worse off.
There's no way to make one individual better off without making another worse off. So that explains why individuals could be happy and then collectively there could be so much unhappiness because it's only
Yes.
a section of the group that's getting happier and at the
Yes.
expense of others. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So maybe that makes happiness a very detrimental pursuit because the more happiness for me means I don't know, I'm being genuine. Like the more happiness for me
Yes.
means some people are going to suffer. Right. So if I'm pursuing my happiness, I'm directly putting someone at risk.
Indirectly, yes.
but doesn't
Well,
that
yeah.
mean that we are attributing happiness to only something that we can quantify it in some, some maybe monetary terms, or maybe not monetary, but in some, I don't know, because I can think of a number of things that would make me happy, right? And I don't know how it's going to affect someone else. Maybe
Let's hear the example and then
okay, so let's say I go for
Let's
a
see the
run.
example.
Just something as simple as going for a run, right? And I'm running, I'm just going through the woods, and enjoying the atmosphere, breathing in good, air. And then at the end of the day, I come back, my heart rate has dropped, a little bit more relaxed. I sleep better. So that makes me happy, right? So how does that, I don't know how that contributes. That's just
Wait,
one example I can
can
think
I
of.
try?
Okay, try.
Go for it.
The woods that you are walking in, that's someone reserved that they bought, and then he doesn't like runners running across it. And then there's this person that comes. What's that word? Is it Dombo? From their perspective, that the who is this Dombo? I'll just come and run across my place, and then I just don't want people here. When you come run across, he's scared the squirrels, and then they go further away, right? And then wait, you speaking a bit more. I don't know. Well, maybe that will not make your better half happy, Perhaps he's like, oh wait, you shouldn't.
But you have somewhere to sleep. There are other people that don't have somewhere to sleep.
Where
So
they
then-
built your house as this
No,
place.
I think
Exactly.
what we are doing here, we are trying to focus on the extremes of the negative. So
No, it's
that
not
may
the
be-
extremes. It's just to basically is to say like, thank you for asking those questions because that's what I was going to say next. That's why at the start I tried to limit the scope of the happiness to being comfortable. Running, yeah, is a personal choice. I don't know if it has anything to do with comfort, So if we come back to comfort, then that example is not going to fly. But we just try to answer that question jokingly,
Okay.
but it's not the actual
So it
question.
seems to me that we are talking about happiness in a very materialistic sense, like happy,
Yes,
being
that is
materially
yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Being I don't know, being materially comfortable or be living at an optimal level of material wealth. I don't know whether that's
Not wealth. Wealth is a lot, but
no, I
just
said
comfortable.
material wealth.
Yes, material comfortability. Let's say I don't know if comfortability is a word, but whatever.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why I'm going to take the next question because Maurice kind of hinted on it, right? And also let's talk about globalization. Now we're seeing other people, other countries. I talk about the Scandinavian countries, and without globalization, maybe we won't have known about that. We just read about it in the textbook. We cannot actually see it. So I'm just saying now, in terms of why people are unhappy, is it because they are over-exerting themselves? They're comparing themselves to others, whereas they're not looking at the reality of their own societal situation. So, for example, buying the car that you want. Sometimes the car that you want might be a Porsche, but you don't have the resources that the person who actually can afford a Porsche has, but you'll feel that having a Porsche is going to make you happy. Just a random example, right? Or you want to have a house that has like 5 acres back garden, only you have like 5 acres and have like 100 rooms, but you're not thinking about the resources and the effort that it takes to actually have those amount of acres of land and the money it takes to maintain 100 rooms. Is it that people are over exerting themselves and over comparing themselves to others without actually looking at their own situation, their own capabilities to determine their happiness? I don't know if that question makes sense. I'll start with Ade for this one.
So you have to cut your coat according to your size now. And Dr. Prince has hinted at it already, and the same with Maurice. So being able to see what other people have, what they are enjoying, can heighten your taste buds. Maybe if all you had was bread, you'd be happy with bread all this while, and then you saw someone eating spaghetti bolognese, and suddenly your eyes start streaking. That's what you now want. So we live in this day and age where we see all sorts of things, we sense them, and sometimes that contentment might not quite be there. Yeah, that's where I'll start with.
How about expectations? Because I don't know if this was something we were going to drive on later, which is why I asked the question earlier. Does societal or family, whatever expectations, have a major role to play in our happiness? For example, when we talk about happiness or maybe success, achieving one's goals, right? Something as simple as getting your dream job or your dream career is could be one of the ways that you can attain that happiness. But as we all know, most of us are from African families. You have 4 main jobs you could have as an African child: doctor, lawyer, engineer, and then disgrace to the family. So,
well, not even
when-
just Africa, like most less
Exactly.
developed, third world countries.
Exactly.
for lack of
So,
better term,
where does personal satisfaction comes in? Because it feels like to define happiness, we have to measure it against some external, someone else's target, or maybe we're comparing it with someone. Can it not just be from our own satisfaction? Which is why when we link financial success to happiness, it's quite a dilemma for me, because I find that, yes, obviously, when you have money, it does help, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. So that on its own is where I'm just trying to hit the nail at,
I've
Right.
got
What's
next
there
on
being-
this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Now to come back, definitely, Sir Morris, you are free to have your own personal happiness. Look at the stats. You mentioned doctor, lawyer, disgrace to the family. I'm sure we all here know about Fela and Nicola Kuti. He was sent to here to become a doctor. He said no, he's going to go to Trinity College to study medicine, and became, in a way, a disgrace to the family. But
Study music.
to study music, even he became a disgrace to the family, but also became a legend that he is. So earlier today, there was a friend of mine putting on a shirt, and I'm sure that shirt made him happy. After societal pressure, he had to go and change that shirt. So you are free to be yourself. It's up to you now how much you resist that social pressure or not. Mike, done.
Interesting. That's a very, very good angle to think about it. So what I'm getting from this is that in some ways, the expectations of those around us, somewhat contributes to happiness. I don't know.
The
Praise wants to go.
expectations are there, but
Yeah.
it's up to us to fulfill those expectations or go our own way. That's what I
But
think.
it seems to me that when we fulfill those expectations rather than not, it makes us happier.
Right. So for me, before we go too far, I think we are changing the conversation now, right? Because
That's
we're
why
talking
it's
about
Katayam.
yes, but changing. We are moving the goalposts. We are moving it. We are moving it because expectations. That's why I try to establish the frame within which we're talking about happiness in. Yes, we're scatteryanning about everything, but let's not scatteryan about another topic. So we can do it in another episode. So meeting expectations, yeah, it might not necessarily make you happy, but like I said, it's just instead of being comfortable, like doing what you want. I didn't say what. That's why I didn't say doing what others want or do what others expect of you. Doing what you want. I want to start a business tomorrow. I can do it.
Yeah.
Right? I want to change my houses tomorrow. I can do it. I feel like I want to go to Paris for the weekend and have some nice baguettes. I can do it. Right? My children's school fees, no problem. I can pay it. If I want to take them to private school, I take them to private school. If I want to take them to public school, I can take it. Like, so basically, if you're just comfortable, right? That's the happiness. The level of happiness I'm talking about. I'm not talking about hitting financial targets of being Jeff Bezos or Dangote. It's just normal normal comfortability, because most people, that's all they want. So that's why I'm trying to ask, why is it individual based or society based? Because in most countries, there's a way they do the tax system that limits how much you can make, that limits how much that you can achieve those happiness. So that's the conversation. Okay, we'll wait for Maurice a bit.
Entrepreneur, it's time for you.
No, me, I'm still thinking, guy. I'm still thinking like I'm caught in deep thought, and then maybe
Yes.
the pace of my logical thinking, I don't know whether it's been impaired or jeopardized, but I kind of feel like we should just define this happiness well. Because whilst I'm sat here, I'm thinking, what do we mean by happiness? What is it?
Comfort. I don't know. Yeah. Ade, am I saying something wrong?
No.
think-
So can I finish this? The reason I'm trying to say that is, is it the feeling that the individual gets? Like maybe just by it's the simple dictionary definition, they say happiness is like there's the feeling or the emotions you get of intense joy, right? Or are we defining it as like internally to the person? We are defining happiness as to some conditions the individual has. That is why
conditions, not feeling. Obviously, we're not psychology. We can't know how people are going to feel, but we just basically empathizing, right? If you're in a situation whereby you can do everything that you want comfortably, even without being a Jeff Bezos, obviously you have some level of happiness, right? I'm not talking about 100% happiness. I'm just talking about that little basic happiness that everyone wants, that the low income people want, that the middle income people want, that even the high level income people want. They just
Okay.
want people to do what they want.
Okay, so permit me, my mind, I'm nitpicking in my mind. So I'm trying to see. So with what you're saying, you mean like maybe the lower, in a person's hierarchy of needs, right? What's at the lower end? The most basic ones, food, shelter, whatever. Like the
Physiological,
most
yes.
basic physiological need that there's this
Yeah.
where they are well taken care of, or they are taken care of.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So the reason I'm trying to just get this happiness definition out of the way is I'm thinking about that, and I'm also thinking about the sources of happiness, right? So the way we are to have these physiological needs met, the things you have to meet these physiological needs is one thing, and the state of happiness for the individual is also another. So I don't know whether I'm doing too much hair splitting, but because two of us can have our physiological needs met, and I will still be unhappy.
Right. So, yes. So, skip the second part, stick to the first half.
Okay.
So, all it takes to meet your physiological needs.
Okay. Okay.
So, obviously, once you have the things met, that's the hierarchy. You move on to the next one. So, we're not moving on to the next one. It's just all of the conditions to actually meet your physiological needs. So, yeah, that's it.
Very materialistic. As long as you're not in Sakba, then that's what we're talking.
Right.
I think their pains are because that, for me, to be honest, too, I'll call that contentment. It might not make me happy, but at least I'm content. I'm not on the street.
I'm answering these questions and thinking, wait, these things I'm saying, it looks like I'm speaking from my point of view, right? When I reflect on these questions from the perspective of others, it's going to be quite challenging to answer them,
All right, then. So I'm going to pause the conversation here and continue based on those societal and educational institution and structure in the next episode. Hope everyone has enjoyed the conversation so far. Please leave your own comments and your own perspectives or your own thoughts about what we've discussed in the comment section below. And if you don't want to leave your comments on YouTube, you can send us your comments via email as well. The email will be in the description below. And if you don't want to send email because it's too formal, you can also send a DM on our socials at DrTovesCorner on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and at It's DrTovesCorner on TikTok. Until the next episode, use your brain. SCFR.